By Manning here. Welcome to Dome Theory. It's Friday and another week, another Celtics Pistons game. They're embroiled in their regular season playoff series, as I keep calling it here. And it's great to welcome back James Edwards III, who was with us last year talking Celtics Pistons. And it was a very different team last year. Wanted to dive into their growth because they've been winning a lot. They've been playing good. They beat the Celtics just a few weeks ago, right before the All-Star break. And I love the identity, the style that they're taking on here. And James is following it just about as close as anyone out there. Wrote about in The Athletic, whether they're going to go the tanking route or continue to win and turn losing into winning here, which I think is always a good thing, James. Like that for a team like Detroit that has just been horrible for so long, to finally get in a swing of winning and competitiveness here, like they are, almost like the 2015 Celtics, where they were in the gutter for about half the year, and then second half they turn up and actually make a playoff run. That's not in the cards here for Detroit. But in this even lottery era that we're in here, where it really isn't a huge difference between being the worst team or the fourth worst team or the fifth worst team, I'm leaning winning here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, thanks for having me. First off, always good to talk to you. I lean more toward putting yourself in the best position possible to get the best pick,
All right.
particularly for Detroit, just because it's a team that, while they've definitely played some of their best basketball in a while, this recent stretch, they need more talent. You don't lose 50 games through 70 to pick sixth to pick seventh. I think if you are able to pair a Cade Cunningham with a Jabari Smith or a Chet Holmgren, it really, really, I mean, people are excited now, but imagine what that looks like when you add a piece like that. I just think it's too late in the season to not focus on getting the pick, or at least getting yourself the best chance. Because, like you said, there's no playoffs aren't possible, play-ins not possible, and even for momentum, like I think these guys know now this most recent stretch was important. It was good for everybody's psyche. When we're healthy and we're clicking, we can look like something. You know that now. So let's go get the pick where you add more talent.
And is that why we got Diallo? Well, Stewart's hurt. Like just this massive injury list here. It almost reminds me of the Trailblazers. Like they're within a game of the play-in, all of a sudden, 7-man injury report here.
No, it's for Detroit. It actually, I don't think it's one of those things. I think that's coming. But Diallo did rush off the floor the other night with his finger and didn't come back. Stewart had a pretty bad knee injury that many thought would be worse than just the bone bruise. Um, I think Killian has a thigh bruise. Magruder, I didn't see what happened to him. He's been good, but I don't think you're sitting him to tank your odds. But yeah, I think a lot of these injuries are legit right now.
So Isaiah Stewart, I want to talk about him. We're not going to see him. Beef stew.
Yeah.
Where'd beef stew come from, first of all?
I don't remember the exact origin, but it was from a fan. I hated the name at first. It sounded like
I love the soup. I don't
yeah,
know about the name.
yeah. I'm not a soup guy, so I don't like. I didn't like either one, but it is. I just think that, and I think like a Division III high school offensive lineman. Like I don't know. Like I just hear beef
That's who he
stew.
is, right? Like, so I
Yeah,
find him so interesting as a player because he is just out there smashing heads.
yeah.
Doesn't have the most refined offensive game ever. He's piling up rebounds. Not the most prototypical, like, defensive anchor center, but he kind of gives this team this identity that they're trying to form here. It feels like to me watching them that they're going to be physical. They'll foul a lot, which if it hurts them, it hurts them, but they're going to do it just to try to throw off opponents with physicality there. And he seems to be the center of that in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I agree. The physicality, he's the heart and soul of that. He's been very, very good in the switch and pick and rolls defensively. Like guards don't have an easy time getting past him. He's got good feet. He's good on his feet. Good movement. He's really a switch nightmare for teams, and I think it's going to get even better. But he's been good. Good toucher on the rim on offense. The jump shot is going to kind of what decides if he's a long-term starter or not. I think that jump shot's going to come around. It looks good, and I think he has good touch. So I think it will come around eventually. But yeah, you ask any of the players, he's the heart and soul of the team.
So you're one of my favorite writers out there now. The way you just have this team covered front to back, I think, is
Appreciate it.
awesome. Especially one of the lower tier teams in the league right here. Like there's a great value to what you're doing, I think, in terms of just showing what's happening there, because most time people just ignore teams like this. The notebook story, or the binder story with Isaiah Stewart, I found very interesting. How did you kind of come? Did you see him with the binder? Like, how did that sort of one come to be? And kind of give the people a little background on that story.
Yeah, so for the background, Isaiah Stewart carries like a binder with him that has like notes from every game he's ever played in the NBA. When he gets on the team plane after road games, he sits and watches film. Um, he sits and watches film. He used to do it with Sean Sweeney, who is now the assistant with the Mavs. Now he does it with Sammy Gelfand, who came from the Warriors and is like the analytical coaching guru in the back. Um, so yeah, he watches film every game, takes notes on his opponents, individual, team, and it's something he's been doing since he came into the league. Something Sean Sweeney recommended based on his experience with players like Giannis and others. I remember hearing about. I think his rookie year, somebody told me that him and Sweeney like watch film a lot after games. And with COVID and stuff, I kind of just like kept it on the back burner. I'm like, nobody else is gonna like find out about this, so kept it on the back burner until this year. And then decided to finally like ask him about it. And he had some good stuff to say about just his approach to studying the game and how seriously he takes it.
So Cade Cunningham, I didn't get to see him in that first game between the Celtics and Pistons. Had an injury issue going on there for a while. Slow start to the year. I think like 15 games in, 20 games in, he was the most inefficient player in the league in terms of shooting,
Yeah.
from the field, all that different kind of stuff. Now he's just been dazzling the last couple of weeks here. Great All-Star showcase. I thought he was the best player, and I think he was named the best player in
Yeah.
that Rising Stars showcase. The passing, the connecting is phenomenal. The defense, that's where I hear the criticism from him, kind of getting stuck in the mud, footwork, those different kind of things. The shot I love. Just your overall impressions of Cade this year, now that we're almost to the end here.
Yeah, he's been really, really good as of late. I thought obviously numbers are what they are, and people saw what they saw when he first started, but that was essentially him coming back from injury was his training camp and preseason. This was a guy who missed all of camp, all of preseason with an ankle injury. He didn't start his rookie season until 4 games into the regular season. So it took him a little bit to find his legs and find what he can and can't get away with against NBA speed and length. So I was never worried. You looked at the shot, a lot of that stuff rimmed out. It was just really bad luck. I knew the shot would come along, but as of late, man, yeah, like the shooting's been good. The mid range three, the passing,
It's a pretty shot.
very pretty shot. It's effortless. It's almost slow motion, but it's just effortless. And I thought the one thing he might struggle with when he came into the league was getting to and finishing at the rim. And I think he's been at like 55, a little over 55% as of late, which not great, but not bad. Um, for a rookie who handles the ball so much and isn't the most athletic. He has it all. He truly does. And he's definitely already stepped into the leadership role and people have rallied around him.
Do you think he has a chance up against Mobley in this Rookie of the Year race, especially with how much Mobley's been winning there in Cleveland?
I think so, because I think Cade's performances individually have popped a little bit more when they do happen. And I think they're going to see more of those performances down the stretch. Like, I think Cade has, I don't even know if he's cracked 30 yet. Like, he's had a lot of like late 20s. I think he has a 35 to 40 point game in him. I think it comes. But I just think when you look at the stats, Cade leads pretty much in all the rookie categories, like the basic ones, points, assists. Um, uh, he's close. He's high up there in rebounds, especially for a guard. I'm sure he's the leader in guard rebounding. Field goal percentage, 3-point percentage. If you factor in just like if you take out his first month of the year when he was coming off an injury, clutch points. He's one of not only the best clutch rookie, but one of the best 30 clutch players in the NBA. I think there's a real case. I said it in December. I think when it gets down to the nitty gritty, I think we have our first co-rookies of the year
Really?
since Elton and Steve Francis. Yeah,
Wow, that would be something. I don't know
that's
how
my
people
hot
would
take.
feel about that, but I'm still leaning Mobley just a
Oh,
little
that's
bit.
fair.
So
Fair. He's
at
been
this
good.
point, you look back, draft night. So they were all in on Cade. There was some pause at the maybe they won't take Cade. People that weren't really sure if it was just like trying to field what other offers they could, create some unpredictability there. But I do think if people were going to go back, and it's early to do a redraft, there's probably some people that take Mobley 1. I don't know if you think Detroit would go back and do that, if you would go back and do that, or if Cade is still the guy there in Detroit, if looking back on it.
No, that's a good question. I think Detroit still would take Cade. I would still take Cade. And aside from on the court, this Pistons team is an organization that's in the midst of a rebuild. It's a team that hasn't had a guy who could be the face for the next decade plus. And I would say from that, I think that is what gave him the edge. He is a great talker. He is great in front of the camera. He loves Detroit. He's a true leader. Everything that we think about face of the franchise, Cade is that. And now we're trying to see if he blossoms into that on the court, and everything like that appears to be heading in that way. But I think from like a leadership, a face, like I hate using the word mascot, but like a mascot of the organization, I think Cade is leaps and bounds better for that role than Evan Mobley. Mobley's quiet, a little softer spoken. And Cade obviously can handle his business on the court as well. So I think Detroit, just knowing what Troy Weaver really takes into account when he selects, when he's doing his research on draft guys, I think that still would be the case.
Last one I got for you on Detroit here. Jerami Grant. I don't think anyone was sure if he was going to stick with the team there. In fact, if I had a bet on it a couple weeks after the deadline there, I would have said slam dunk, he's gone.
Yeah.
And he sticks around. I think they obviously had a value in keeping him around. He really wanted to be there in the first place. We talked about that last year. You wrote about all the reasons that he wanted to be there with the Pistons. And 2 years in, after all that losing, I guess the question was whether that changes for them and him there. And he gets hurt. He hasn't looked amazing since he's come back. And obviously this is Cade's team now, and just a year left on his contract. What do you think Jerami Grant's outlook with this team is going forward here?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what happens with the draft. So I could see a world in which Jerami gets traded if the Pistons pick 1, 2, 3, 4, and if one of those forwards or front court guys are the obvious selection. I think Jerami is going to hold interest around the league. I think people are looking at him and seeing what he's doing in Detroit, and that's how they're valuing him, I'd be very surprised. They know what his best role is. They know how he would fit in that role. And those guys are usually worth at least a first-round pick and a young player. Look at Robert Covington a few years ago. He got 2 first-round picks. Aaron Gordon was a first-round pick and a young player back in return. So Jerami's around that ballpark. Troy Weaver had no rush to trade him. But there's also a world in which, like, what if Detroit ends up with Jaden Ivey? And you look around, you're like, oh, well, we could go with Cade, Jaden Ivey, Saddiq Bey, Jerami Grant, and Isaiah Stewart. And like, well, that's kind of fun. So I think there is a world in which he stays around. He is a good player. We wouldn't be right about him possibly getting traded if he wasn't a good player. So I think where Detroit drafts will really dictate the future of Jerami Grant in Detroit.
Really quick, who is the guy you think fits best with this team and the scouting, the research you've done in this draft so far?
I really like Jabari Smith. He's my favorite. I think he would be, if all goes well, I think he's better suited as like a really good number 2 guy alongside Cade. I think him and Cade would play well off each other. I think offensively, just the versatility is unmatched. Defensively, I don't think he's as bad as maybe some people might think he is. Like, I think there's potential there. And I just feel physically, I think he'll hold up. That's really my only concern with Chet. I know it's like the lame thing to talk about, but like I do have concerns about that. I just like Jabari a little bit more right now. I think he might not have the higher ceiling as Chet, but I definitely think if you're looking between those two, I think his floor is definitely higher.
He is James Edwards III. Read him in The Athletic. Follow him at JL Edwards, 3 eyes. We'll talk to you tonight, James. Enjoy the game. We'll follow on with the coverage there. Go follow him for all the Pistons coverage. He's the best out there doing it. And thanks again for being here on Dome Theory.
I appreciate you having me. As always, good talking to you, man.